Hi everyone, welcome to OCD Live. I'm Greymond, and let's begin today's broadcast. So today, the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is the recovery process of OCD and looking at it more closely. The recovery process of OCD is different for everybody, depending on the major things are how long you've had OCD, how good you are at recovery, and what are your present circumstances. So, how long you've had OCD makes them a big difference because, say, if you had this particular, and it's not so much about the general, your general OCD, how long you've had that, but your specific obsession. So, the obsession that you're dealing with now, how long did you have this? If you've had it for, say, a month or two, it's going to be a lot easier for you to recover than, say, for somebody who had the same, or whatever, their obsession for a year or two. It doesn't mean that you cannot recover if you had it for a long time. It just means that it's going to take you a little bit longer. And that's okay. There is a rush to recover, but everybody who wants to recover and who works hard at their recovery ultimately recovers. So it's not like you will not recover, it just might take you a little bit longer. Also, what are your current circumstances in your life? Because if you are in a position where you're dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of things are happening, you're always on the go, you don't have a set schedule, or maybe you do have a set schedule, but it's very, very busy, then that might make it more difficult for you to stay on track. Your mind, in a way, being busy is a good thing and is a bad thing because um, on one side, when you are busy, you have a chance for your mind to focus on other things. So your mind is not so stuck on this particular thought. But at the same time, if you are busy, you might slip up and do the reassurance behaviors more because you're just unable to focus, or you're just choosing to give in to the OCD this one time, and it starts a whole new um, circle of obsessions basically. So being busy can be a good thing, but too busy is usually not a good thing because too busy means it leads to too much stress. Also, how hard you're working at your recovery. And this is the one thing that you have to be honest with yourself. I see people recover all the time, and some people work very hard at their recovery and recover very quickly, and other people kind of go slow and they still recover, but they're just taking their time. And again, everybody recovers differently. Some people are naturally all or nothing type of person where they will put all of their effort and then they're going to be done, and that's just how they want it. Other people want to put some amount of effort every day and just keep going like that. It's more of like a type of personality, and everybody's different. So what works for one person, doesn't mean it's going to work for another person. The point that I'm trying to make with this is just because you're recovering slow, it doesn't mean that it's worse. Because sometimes slow sticks better. Because I find sometimes when a person is recovering really quickly, it's good. But just like they've recovered really quickly in an emergency situation, if in real emergency situation in their life, such as if an unpredictable stress happens or just something happens, um, they might forget what they have learned because the road to recovery was a lot shorter. So they've recovered, and then say a year later, 2 years later, they forgot how they did it because it was just a few months. So that's something to keep in mind, that the progress and the process of the recovery, whether with me or with somebody else, you need to remember how you did it. So if OCD tries to get back and bother you again later on in life, which happens a lot, you know how to handle it, you won't let it. Because that's the other thing, is what you're doing right now is you're recovering from all of the obsessions that you have already created and getting your mind back to the okay level. This means full recovery. So your mind is fine, OCD is not bothering you, you are waking up every morning, you don't have OCD, you're going on with your life, it stops being a factor for you. However, your mind is already been obsessed to a point of OCD. Also, the general personality is kind of obsessive. And, you know, as you guys know, I had OCD myself, so I'm talking about myself and you guys as well. So, knowing all of these things that you're kind of almost predetermined to have OCD, you need to be careful later in life, because if some sort of stressful situation happens, or if you're just really busy, OCD might creep in little by little, and you have to be conscious of why you're doing certain things. You know, say you got over OCD and later in life you start to, I don't know, do the light switch thing, like you have to flick it on and off a certain amount of times. You do it once, you do it twice, then you start to think, why am I doing this? And then you start to get anxiety and panic if you don't do it, and that starts to take foothold, and it starts to become a problem. So what happened before, most likely, is you didn't know about OCD, you didn't know how it worked, so you tried to do reassurance by doing more of these behaviors, which made OCD worse in the long run. So now you have to make sure you don't repeat this pattern. So that's why it's very important for you to, in the future, remember that OCD has caused you panic before, and you won't let it get to that level again. And if you remember this, you will never get into the situation that you'll have again. Like, for example, me personally, I'm not worried that one day I'll get OCD again, because I will never let myself get to the state where I was when I was recovering, or when I was actually getting, you know, having OCD. Because I know what it's like, and I remember what it took for me to recover, and I remember the process, and I know that if I don't like a thought, or the thought is an intrusive thought, I need to disregard it instantly and not keep it going. But because my brain has been normalized, and you know, the anxiety levels have dropped, I don't have the problem of the thoughts like kicking around. So that's what you can expect with OCD recovery. And in that way, you become just like everybody else. Because other people who don't have OCD, they can also get intrusive thoughts from time to time. There's not one person on this planet who has never been obsessed about anything in their life. People get obsessed, people get worried, people get panicked, people get anxious. But most people, unless they have OCD, they don't let it get to that level. You know, so they get anxious for a day, maybe 2 days even, they get anxious, but then they move on. But the person with OCD gets new and new obsessions. They take a long time to process the obsession, basically. And the brain takes that as an indication that the thought is important, and starts a whole snowball effect of going from thought to thought to thought to thought. Right? So that's basically how OCD works, and you got to make sure that when you recover, you're staying strong in your recovery. Also, while you're recovering, what you can expect is, unfortunately, you can expect the thoughts to get worse before they get better. When the thoughts get worse, what are you gonna see? You're gonna see more thoughts in the day than you got before. So for example, if before you used to get 2 or 3 thoughts throughout the day and they would go away within an hour, once you start recovery, and by starting recovery, I mostly mean my recovery, and that's just because that's the only recovery that worked for me, and that's the only recovery that I teach the people that I work with, my clients, right? So I just don't know any other way really to recover that works, you know. So I'm telling you based on my experience and the experience of my clients. So to recover, you'll see more thoughts coming into your mind, but as these thoughts are coming in, these thoughts are going to have much less intensity. So before, if you got 2 or 3 thoughts a day with an intensity level of 9 or 10 each one, you would get, I don't know, 6 or 7 thoughts a day with the intensity level of 4, maybe 5, something like that. So, and they will not last that long either. And that's because as you are actively doing exposures, as you're actively pursuing different things, you will see that your mind doesn't really have time to focus on any specific thought. It's going to go from thought to thought to thought to thought because you are throwing a lot at it. And because you are being brave and you're throwing a lot at your mind, and you're not getting stuck on a specific thought by doing reassurance or in some way kind of trying to get the thought to stay. Because of that, your mind is not going to put as much emphasis on this particular thought anymore. So the thought will get weaker and weaker, and each time it comes, it's going to come with less anxiety, because your mind sees that, okay, well, this person is disregarding the thought, they're not paying attention, they're doing something else, they're, worried about other things. I'm going to send the thought with less anxiety. Because, see, I don't know if you watched my other videos, or if you don't, if you have any idea of what I'm talking about, but basically, the mind, the part of the mind that's the amygdala, that's the part that kind of causes OCD, or the part that's mainly responsible for OCD, has no way of telling which thought is true and which thought is not true. It only knows which thought is true specifically based on your reaction to the thought. So if you react as if it's real, it's going to send you more thoughts that, that will make you feel like it's real. If you react as if it's not real, it's going to stop sending you these thoughts. It's going to send you other thoughts that it will view as more important, which will hopefully be real thoughts about real things. If it sends another type of OCD thought, you might disregard it and not even notice. Even take a look at this, that you are obsessed about your specific theme, but you're not obsessed about all the OCD themes. For example, if you're obsessed about, say, a cleaning OCD, you're not obsessed about cleaning OCD and, say, religious OCD at the same time. It's usually one or the other. Over time, you might experience different things or different themes, right? But at the same time, you cannot experience the same type of obsession. So, and that's what you have to remember, that this is just an obsession. Your mind is only focusing on this because you have made it important. And why did you make it important? Because it scared you. Because in your particular situation in your life right now, you are, the theme of your OCD is the worst thing that could happen to you specifically. You think that this is the worst thing that can happen, therefore this is the thought you receive. And it's not even most of the time, it's not even the specific situation that's the worst, but the perceived outcome of the situation. So if you think that, okay, well, if I step on the crack, my parents will die, for example. That's a common thought for kids. Because for kids, losing their parents is the worst possible thing that could ever happen. For all of us anyways, right? But for kids especially. So that's why they usually, children really get obsessed on this particular topic, right? As people grow up, then they start to get obsessed about a different topic, and then that starts being important. And they would never, at, say, like 50 years old, a person will most likely not get obsessed about stepping on a crack and connecting it to a death of a loved one. Sometimes people do, but not as often as kids do. For kids, it's very, very common. And for teenagers, a gay thought is very, very common. They're worried about being gay because anyways, I'm not gonna explain, but as we grow up and teenagers basically, I don't know how to explain this, but yeah. So as a person gets older, gets married, the gay thoughts don't bother them that much. They know if they're either gay or they're straight or whatever. They know who they are, so they get obsessions of different sorts, such as an obsession with like something happening to their kids, or something happening to their marriage. Or money obsessions. So I'm just saying that your OCD thoughts are mostly because of the situation in life that you are in. Not because you are a bad person, not because it means something. It doesn't mean really anything about you other than you are a very conscientious person. In this conscientious state and in this vulnerable state, the thing that is most scary to you is this. And like I said, not so much this, but the outcome of the situation. So even, like I said, the example with the teenagers. The teenager is not so much afraid of being gay as much as they're afraid of what that will mean for the rest of their life, or what that would mean to their family, or what that would mean to their friends, you know, or maybe they have a girlfriend and they're worried that they're not attracted to girls but are attracted to guys, for example. So it's always the outcome, not the actual thought, that is bothersome. You know, well, actually, no, the thought is bothersome as well. It's not at all. It's frequently both, but sometimes it can only be just the one, so just the outcome. Um, Either way, these thoughts mean nothing about you, and that's kind of the thing that I want to really get across here, because I hear it a lot of the time, and I felt the same way, that if I'm having these thoughts, or that means I'm a bad person, you know, or that means something about me, or that means that the situation is true. All of these things, I'm telling you again, they mean nothing. And I really kind of want to emphasize this point, because I hear it way too often. And the person thinks, if these thoughts have to do with feelings, or if these thoughts have to do with some sort of a physical situation, um, like physical signs or whatever, that makes it true. It doesn't make it true. Your mind right now is not working correctly, and your mind thinks that this thought is real. Since your mind controls the rest of your body fully, which includes emotions, includes physical aspects of your body, everything, you know, it can send you really whatever it wants. So because your mind is running incorrectly, and it's sending you things incorrectly, so it can send you thoughts, feelings, emotions, you know, anything. So don't take any of that personally, and don't take any of that to mean something about your your thought, like, oh, my thought is true because I'm getting this and this. No, you're getting this and this because your mind is thinking that this thought is true. And the reason why your mind thinks that the thought is true is because you taught it that it was true earlier by doing the reassurance, as you guys probably know from my other videos, right? So honestly, just when you have an OCD thought, just know that simply by saying, well, what if, and following your usual theme, whatever that theme may be, that automatically means that this thought is OCD. You don't need to look deep into it. You don't need to think about it. You can just say, it's OCD. I'm choosing to let go. I'm choosing to move on. You know? You don't have to look deep into it. You don't have to decipher what's true and what's not true. So this is kind of just a topic I wanted to bring up. If you guys have any questions, you have some time to let me know, and I can answer them the best I can. Or if you want me to just speak more in depth on a particular topic, please let me know and I will do that. The other thing I wanted to say too while I wait, that, you know, never stop recovering, you know, never give up, you know, because when it comes to OCD, you know, you always can recover. You can be, you know, 20 years old and having an OCD attack, or you can be 50 years old, or you can be 80 years old and having an OCD attack. You can still recover from this. And I see people recover from this all the time, you know, different ages, different situations. The only thing that all of the people that I see recover have in common is that they're all continuously going forward and recovering. And the thing that I see in all the people who don't recover is that they're not moving forward and they're not recovering, right? They're not persevering in their recovery. They're not stopping reassurance. They're not stopping avoidance. They keep doing the compulsions, and they don't recover until and unless they do that. But nobody told you that you have to do this all in one day. It's going to take time for all of the compulsions to go away, for all of the reassurance to go away, for you to stop all of the avoidance behaviors. And as you stop more and more, you will feel power, and it will be easier for you to keep going. But there's times where kind of we fall back and feel, you know, like we can't keep going and stuff. And in those times, and I felt those times myself, it's important in those times to really keep going, because you know you have to. This is the rest of your life, and you don't want to live it worried about something that can cause harm in some way. You have to live your life um, as real you, not through OCD. And the only way to do this is to basically disregard these thoughts, because I'm telling you, I don't know how other doctors, or I'm not a doctor myself, but how doctors help people with OCD. In my opinion, this is the only method that works, because I've been to doctors, I have clients who've all been to doctors, and yet they're coming to me because nobody really recovered. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is the only thing that works, and it's so simple. It's so simple. You just have to keep telling your mind that I want this and I don't want that. And do what you want to do. So don't be afraid, don't do reassurance, don't do avoidance. Just follow what you really want to do. And whatever OCD says doesn't matter. Don't buy into it, don't pay any attention to it. Don't do anything to keep it going. And if you don't do anything to keep it going, it will stop, because you are its power source. You are the only thing that's keeping your OCD going. If you stop powering it up by constantly paying attention to it in every single way, it will stop. And the level of importance that you attach to these thoughts is exactly the level of your OCD. So if your level of OCD is 10 out of 10, that means you're attaching a 10 out of 10 importance to it right now. If it's 8 out of 10, then it's 8 out of 10 importance right now. So your level is exactly the same level of the importance that you are attaching. Stop attaching so much importance to these thoughts. They may be scary, you may feel like they're true, but like I said, these are just attachments of OCD. Your mind is messed up a little bit right now with OCD. It's controlling your feelings, so you feel like it's true. You're worried about the possibilities, but all of this is coming from your mind that is controlled by OCD right now. You need to stop letting it get to you, and you need to stop allowing it to get to you. Because, I know that the thoughts are coming at you, and I know that they're coming at you very strongly, but it's still a choice. You don't have a choice whether to get a thought, but you do have a choice of how you react to the thought. You don't have to say, okay, this thought is very scary, let me think about it to make sure it's not true. You can just say, this thought is very scary, I've got it a billion times before, it's exactly the same but slightly different. So I'm going to disregard this thought just like I disregard all of the other thoughts, and I'm just going to move on with my life. And by saying that, you're taking all of the power out of it, So it's not going to have as much power over you the first time as after you say something like that. Like, I don't care, I'm moving on, basically. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that, and we've talked about it yesterday, I think, a little bit, but it's you need to understand how to recover, you need to understand what to do, and then it's up to you to actually go and do it. Because I understand that you can feel like Ali's sitting there thinking that I can just go do it, but I can't because it's so hard. First of all, I know how hard it is. I've been there myself. I know exactly how difficult the recovery process is. But to be honest, there is no other solution that will get rid of OCD permanently. Yes, you can take medication and feel OCD relief slightly because, you're so drugged up, basically. Or, you can... Basically, there is no other solution besides the medication. But medication is not a foolproof solution, because the medication, you can't take it forever. There might be a situation where you can't take medication, and then what are you going to do? Plus, the other problem with medication is that when you take medication, you feel like basically like flat, like there's no good emotions, there's no bad emotions if you're at a very high dose, because it's not like the medication is specifically used to get rid of OCD. It's just used to get rid of very strong emotions, right? So it ups the serotonin level basically. Well, kind of pulls the serotonin, but depending on the type of medication you have. But anyways, but I found that it really makes you just flat. Like you're always tired, you're always sleepy. And they say that that's a side effect of the medication. Um, but you become like, you can't really experience the happiness either. You're just kind of flat all the time. You're like, I'm okay, you know. You don't want to live like that all of your life, just being okay, you know. And I mean, I find that too, that I think I'm coming to the end of the show here, but tomorrow I'll talk more about the medication and stuff. But, you know, when it comes to medication, a lot of it, is kind of prescribed unnecessarily, I find. There's a lot of times when the person doesn't need medication, but the doctor doesn't really know what to do and how to help with OCD, so they just prescribe it. I mean, that's not always the case, but a lot of the times that's the case. And I find that through, my personal experience as well as the experience of my clients, that, they prescribe them like Tic Tacs, I'm like, I don't understand sometimes, Just, here you go, that's okay, that's fine. So, just don't think that the medication is necessary. I'll tell you, well, we'll go over more in the next show tomorrow, but the 2 times I find that the medication is necessary in OCD is when the person is obviously, having a very difficult time not doing the reassurance, not stopping the reassurance. So in that case, if there's no other way to stop reassurance other than to kind of help along, because medication kind of takes the anxiety down, so the person's better able to handle the stresses, right? So so in that case, if there's just no way, medication might help get that going a little bit. Also, of course, if the person is nearing like a complete breakdown, that's another important reason to take medication. But that's very rarely the case. Most of the time, people just feel really bad. They're not near a breakdown. They just feel really, really, really bad, and they start to feel better almost right away after stopping the reassurance. After the initial state where the anxiety kind of ramps up for the first little bit, but then they start to, even then they see a difference. So I'm telling you that with medication, kind of decipher for yourself, but you still will need, either way, put it this way, either way, whether you take medication or not, you still need to do the work, and the work is to disregard the thoughts. And if you're taking medication and you're disregarding the thoughts and you're working on your recovery, then you're doing everything right, because either way you will recover, and the medication is temporary. You can't recover by only taking the medication. It's like a band-aid. It's, if it's not on you, it's not gonna work. So you have to be constantly taking it for it to be working. But if you take medication while doing this mental recovery, which what I talk about in all my videos, what me and my clients do, and all this, what I wrote books on, everything, right? Then you will recover naturally, and medication can help you if you're using it, or you can just recover without it, But that's a permanent recovery. So, guys, just please keep going in your recovery. Never give up. I'm telling you, maybe I should do a separate show too on how bad I was when I was feeling having OCD. But I'm telling you, just for right now, that I was really, 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 really bad. I was in a really bad state. So it's not like I recovered from a mild OCD. I recovered from probably OCD that was more severe than at least half of my clients. Put it this way. So if I can recover, and I'm not the strongest, most willful person in the world either. So if I can recover from this thing, you guys can all recover from this. And my other hope is that once you recover from it, you can help other people recover as well, because there's just way too many people suffering and there's not enough help out there. There's just not, you know. So that was the show for today, guys. I will see you tomorrow.